Good evening. I'm going to call the, what's today's date? February 27th. As I'm looking at this, last week was the 21st. February 27th, RTM meeting to order, regular meeting to order. And we'll start with the roll call. We have a special guest, Dan Roche, tonight. So. Hold it down.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Edward Bateson. Marty Fury. Here. Melissa Longo. Here. Amy Ruggiero. Bill Gerber. Here. Sorry, got you, Amy. Karen McCormick. Here. Cindy Purton. Excuse me. Jeff Steele. Here. Alex Durrell. Here. Galdenzi. Here. Tom Lambert.
Here.
Sharon Pistilli. Laura Carson. Here. Michelle McCabe.
Here.
Marcy Spolier.
Here.
Liz Ezema.
Here.
Jennifer Barbona. Barbona.
Here.
Excuse me. Josh Garskoff.
Here.
Joe Siebert.
Here.
Jay Walk.
Here.
Steve Barris.
Here.
Hannah Gale. Andrew Graceffa.
Here.
Lisa Havey. John Kuhn.
Here.
Mark McDermott.
Here.
Jill Vergara. Karen Wackerman.
Here.
Cameron Chiniski. Hank Ferentz. Pam Iacono. Jim Myers. Christine Brown. Drew Georgiadis. Margaret Horton.
Here.
Kelly Cinto. Ken Astorita.
Here.
Peter Britton.
Here.
Brooks Sparacino. Story Tolman. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ann. Could we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance. Okay, item number 2, to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 23rd, 2023. Can I have a motion to approve? Representative Woke, seconded by anybody? Representative Siebert. Don't all jump at once. Is there any conversation changes to be made to the meeting minutes? Representative Zesma.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Liz Esma, District 4. I would like to motion to remove the addendum at the end of the minutes. It was not a discussion had. It was not presented to us. It was not part of the meeting. I suspect this may be a mistake somehow in the compiling of the minutes, but that is my motion, is to remove that addendum.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Vergara, any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, you're an aye? Okay. Abstentions? Representative Astori is an abstention. Representative Durrell? Brooke, you're a yes or a no or a... Okay, the motion as it stands, the amended is to amend the minutes to reflect that the addendum at the end of the minutes after the State of the Town speech was not presented to us, so therefore it does not belong in the minutes because it was not discussed at that meeting in front of us. Okay, thank you. So we just have the 2 abstentions? Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 3 was the report from the Affordable Housing Committee that we heard last week in committee. So we'll move to item number 4. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the town of Fairfield, by its first selectwoman, Brenda L. Kupchak, be and hereby is authorized to enter into a ground lease for 75 years with Habitat for Humanity to build 4 units of affordable home ownership housing at 244 Greenfield Street with no cost to the town, and further resolve that First Selectwoman Brenda L. Kupchak is authorized to execute all documents in connection thereto. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Graceffa, seconded by Representative Pistilli. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 5, to consider and act upon the following resolution recommended by the First Selectwoman. Resolved that a certain contract negotiated by and between the town of Fairfield and the United Public Service Employees Union, UPSEU, Unit Number 222, Town Hall Employees Association, concerning conditions of employment for the period ending June 30th, 2021, be and hereby is amended in the manner described in the attached memorandum of agreement, so as to make the contract effective through June 30th, 2025, and to incorporate certain other changes regarding wages, hours, and other matters. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Havey, seconded by Representative Barris. Any further comments on that contract? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll take that one to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 6, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that in accordance with a request from the town attorney, certain amendments be and hereby are made to the following cell tower lease. It says, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC 100 Reef Road, Dish Wireless LLC 3965 Congress Street. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Carson, seconded by Representative Durrell. Any comments or questions on that one? Okay, seeing none. Any questions, comments from the public? I'm looking at a lot of blank faces. Seeing none, let's take that one to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Representative Vergara? Abstentions? Motion carries, what's the number? Something to 1? 32? 3210. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to switch the order of items number 7 and 8. Can I have a motion to approve? Representative Barris, seconded by Representative Astorita. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we'll switch. So we're going to do item number 8. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that a resolution appropriating $760,000 for the costs related to uses of the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund and Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund be and hereby is approved. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Vergara, seconded by Representative Siebert. Any further comments or questions on these items that are under item number 8, just as a reminder? Sorry, it's not like I have a lot of paper up here, but we have the fire station rehabilitation, shift commander vehicle replacement, Parks and Rec has Sergeant Murphy playground replacement, police head Police Department Headquarters rehabilitation, and fire vehicle replacement. Everybody's good? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll take that to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, back to item number 7, is to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond resolution entitled, "A Resolution Appropriating $7,255,022 for the costs of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriations be and hereby is approved." Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Zesma, seconded by Representative Carson. Before we get started, does anybody on the body have an issue with the fire pumper? Okay, Chief McCarthy, you are dismissed. Thank you for coming. Okay, we'll open that up to the body. Does anybody have any comments on these items under this appropriation? I can't. Sorry, it's a little blurry up there. I do need new glasses. Representative Garskoff.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Josh Garskoff from District 5. I'd like to speak to the pickleball court proposed project. I would like to remove the 2 additional courts, so we would leave in the renovation of the court for and expanding the usage from 2 to 4 on the existing space, but to not approve 2 new ones. And the reason being, it is a dense neighborhood, it is a crowded neighborhood, it is a small park, and it is an incredibly flood-prone area. And we'd be adding more impervious surface to that area, and we'd be adding more activity to that park where parking is a problem. There are plans in the works around town for pickleball courts. There's going to be more pickleball courts around town. I don't think this is the place to add them. I don't think this space can accommodate it well, and therefore I'd like to remove those 2. I don't have an exact number. I think it was discussed the other night, but I'm not quite clear on what the dollar figure would be for that. But the gist of my motion is to remove the 2 new courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Vergara. Okay, any further discussion on those courts from the body? All right, that's just Hank Farron saying he's here. Representative Bateson, if you could type it in the chat, please, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, Ed Bateson, District 1. I appreciate Josh's amendment. I'm not there. I thought Parks and Rec did a pretty good job explaining the necessity, or not the necessity, but the desire of people to have these extra pickleball courts down there. I understand that there's a sense of community by keeping it in that location and expanding it. That kind of made sense to me, as opposed to spreading them out throughout town. There seem to be, pockets of where they want to be, and it seems like that's where they want to be. So I get it, but I'm going to rely on, the experts saying that drainage and everything's going to be taken care of. I heard that in subcommittee. So, I'd like to see this go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bateson. Any other comments? Representative Burris?
Steve Barrett's, District 6. I first played pickleball in 1989, working on my master's in physical education. I've been teaching pickleball at the middle school level for the past 25 years. I'm a physical educator, just recently retired. It's one thing that I was spent my entire life doing is trying to get people out and moving. That's been the goal of my life, to basically get people to move and to exercise. And pickleball is a tremendous activity, especially for adults to do such. And if you bring any pickleball items to me, okay, I will be 100% in favor of them, except this place at this time with these 2 extra courts. I think those pickleball courts could be better situated throughout the town. Pickleball is an area where you like to have a bunch of them grouped together, and there's plenty of places around town where you could perhaps put 6, 8 pickleball courts and maybe a pavilion, and Tunx's Hill is not the place to do that. So I think anytime that you have a situation like this, you have to make a tough decision. It might be the easy thing to put the 2 there right now, but I think we'd be better off in the long run grouping larger amounts of courts together in other parks that are better able to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Barris. Any other comments? Representative Steele.
Jeff Steele, District 2. I am not a pickleball player. I've never played it, but I know it is the most popular sport here in town amongst people of all ages. I know in the senior center, people are fighting to get in and play. So I think if we can do this for our community, I think this would be a very good thing. And, you know, to add amenities like this, recreational amenities, I think this is very good for all of our residents.
Thank you, Representative Steele. Representative Barahona.
Good evening, Representative Barahona, District 5. Yeah, there's no doubt that pickleball is very popular. We heard, and I think it's been mentioned that we've heard from a lot of people. We all want to see an increased inventory. I reached out, this is my district. I reached out to several neighbors, several new younger women who are playing pickleball. I had the same comment repeated a number of times, which is yes, add inventory, but not at the expense of less open space at Tunx's Hill and potential for increased flooding, particularly with neighbors in that area. I don't have confidence that there has been an efficient study done in that area that would make me feel comfortable, as Representative Garkoff said, about adding more non-porous surface there, especially in light of the units going in on Greenfield Street with the Habitat project, which is on the other side of the park, but all still connected. So for those reasons, and immensely supportive of having more pickleball throughout the town. And I hope we do that and can find other places for these 2 new additions. I think for sure renovating the 4 that are there, that will already increase by 2-fold the amount that is there, since 2 of them are not playable at the moment. So hoping that those 4 at least will help add inventory right away, and we can find another location for the 2 additional ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Barahona. Representative McCormick.
Representative McCormick, District 2. In response to the concerns about the flooding, I just wanted to point out to the body the response that we received this afternoon, late this afternoon, from Bill Hurley from the Engineering Department, where he indicated that although the flooding concerns are certainly things to take into account, that because any project that increases impervious surfaces creates a situation where flooding can take place, that he has specifically stated that these projects will require some form of detention for the water, and that the Parks and Rec Department and consultant are familiar with those requirements. The detention was required and provided at the Gould Manor pickleball court, so we have some prior experience controlling the flood concerns. And he also indicated, which is really compelling to me, that engineering will not sign off on this project until these concerns are met, which is standard for any of these projects. So he follows up with a statement that says engineering has no issues with the pickleball proposal and will ensure that detention is provided. So for all those reasons, I'm going to support the proposal as indicated in the on the agenda tonight.
There's no cheerleading here, sorry. Any other comments or questions? Representative Vergara.
Jill Vergara for District 7. I support pickleball courts, but I just think that this area of town is overdeveloped, period. If you look at a map of the town, you see a lot of the amenities, a lot of the building, a lot of housing. In this one area of town, this is the only open space park that this area has. I've stood up in other forums where I fight against some 830G developments, and I think that this is all in the same context. We can't prioritize recreational development over other sorts of development. This is the same exact issue. This is overly dense area, and we're flirting with disaster by continuing to put things in there. We need to spread it out in other areas of town.
Thank you, Representative Vergara. Representative McCabe.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to say that, like other colleagues on the RTM, I too am very much in favor of creating more pickleball courts in other locations. And I just want to point out, very appreciative of Mr. Hurley's email, but it didn't actually specifically address any of the concerns and instead indicated that detention and engineering surveying still has to be done. And in fact, this could end up not being something that engineering can sign off on in the first place. So I would much prefer to see the town's energy expended instead on other locations that Parks and Rec have already identified for possible pickleball courts instead of this one where flooding is obviously a huge issue among many other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McCabe. Any other members of the body? Representative Longo.
Hi, Representative Melissa Longo, District 1. I also have never played pickleball. I'm a little scared to make a fool of myself, so I will spectate where I think where I belong. That being said, just the sheer amount of people in this town that love this sport is amazing to me, and I don't think that this is something that we should deny the citizens of our town. Everybody wants to work here, play here. There shouldn't be a discrepancy of the fact that we don't have many courts. And I'm curious with other members of the RTM about where we would put these if they want it spread all over town. I guess my question is where? If there was another couple of places for this, I would like to know where. And obviously our Parks and Rec department are doing their due diligence and saying that, you know, as with all of these processes, it has to go through engineering, make sure that everything is fit before they go through with it. And I say it's worth a shot. And people that live here, they're asking for it. And I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Longo. Representative Vergara.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Longo. My name's Representative Vergara from District 7. I'm just answering the question that Representative Longo put to this body. I believe that there are 70 different sites that we can choose from that have been pointed out in the Park and Rec Master Plan. And actually, I thought it was really interesting in the Park and Rec Master Plan that there were 20 acres of town-owned space that weren't listed on that plan. 20 acres in Greenfield Hill. I believe that you live right next to it. It's a pretty ripe place for development.
Representative Longo.
Representative Longo, District 1. I'm very aware of where I live. Thank you for pointing that out to me, Representative Vergara. I would also like to point out that the 20 acres of land is a town-owned property that is the only working farm, and that has absolutely nothing to do with this conversation. There were many other places in the master plan that were looked at. That was not one of them. Thank you.
Any other comments from the body? Representative Spolier.
Representative Spolier, District 4. In regards to the master plan, one of the things that I noticed was, because I followed it fairly closely, is that this is a concept plan. All of those sites are concepts, and overall, they were all supposed to be looked at specifically and get the input of the surrounding neighborhood for each of those parks. I specifically, in my area, Lincoln Park was concerned about that. You know, they wanted to add things like pavilions and other things that neighbors are concerned about, noises, concerned about effects on them around the neighborhood. And I don't believe that the neighbors around this park have been consulted at all in regards to this. And it impacts them in regards to flooding. It impacts them in regards to open space and being able to play. When I look at that town map of the Tungus Hill concept plan, and you look at the flooding of the Rooster River and that plan and that map, that area is so dense. There are no open spaces for children to go and play in. And I think pickleball is a wonderful sport. My dad is addicted to it. His senior living area that he lives in Florida actually just had to shut down all the pickleball courts because of noise. Yes, where he lived, they shut down the pickleball courts because the noise was too much. And the Fort Pierce ordinance, it was against it. So my dad's livid about that, and I certainly understand the pickleball community. But I do think that we haven't done our due diligence in consulting the neighbors in the area, and we need to do that. So for that reason, I cannot support this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Spolier. Representative Ferentz. You are on mute, Hank. Still on mute. Just keep muting himself. You want to put the question in the chat? Because we can't hear you. With the new pitch clock, my time would be up. Step out of the batter's box once. Here we go. I would like to hear from Mr. Calabrese about options. Mr. Calabrese.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and members of the RTM. Thank you for having this discussion and considering adding the pickleball court. First, I'd like to just correct something that I heard, I believe Mr. Garskoff start off this conversation with, saying that this park is overdeveloped. And I apologize, Mr. Garskoff, if that wasn't you. But Tungus Hill is our third largest recreational park in town. This is the ideal spot based on community feedback for additional pickleball courts. Obviously, I'm on Zoom tonight, so I cannot see, or WebEx, I can't see if the pickleball community is in the audience tonight to speak to this. But if they are, I'm sure they will gladly give their input on where these courts should go. If the opposition is there, that's fine too. Whatever the RTM decides tonight on how to move forward with these pickleball courts is obviously what we'll, ultimately we'll end up doing. I think it would be incredibly short-sighted, though, to cut those 2 additional pickleball courts from this location. Again, in speaking with Mr. Hurley in the engineering department, because I know flooding was a huge concern of some of the members of this body, and in particular, one resident of Fairfield, with any project, those 2 courts would have to go through all the proper vetting, meaning they still have to go through planning and zoning. They still would have to go through wetlands if they fall within that zone. As Mr. Hurley pointed out, we would look at, our engineering firm would look at any detention areas that need to be added, like we did at Gould Manor. Those are all part of any project. We can't just go around putting things in and not taking that into consideration. So while there's not a specific plan yet because it hasn't been engineered, we plan to do that. Engineering doesn't see an issue with this. Parks and Recreation doesn't see an issue with this. And I would urge all of you to support this project. This is a win for the community and a win for you guys as elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calabrese. Any other questions, comments from the body? Representative Pistilli.
Sharon Pistilli, District 3. Mr. Moderator, through you to Mr. Calabrese. So if we were to forgo putting the 2 pickleball courts in that location on Tungus Hill Park, where else would you suggest? And are there other spots where we could put, like right now, if we were to put these 2 courts in, there'd be 4 in one spot and then 2 in another. Is there another place where we have sufficient land to say put 6 together, like with a pavilion? Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Pistilli. The next location would be Dwight Elementary School next to the tennis court. That would be the next viable location.
Thank you, Representative Pistilli. Any other comments, questions from the body? All right, I think the 19 of you are here for pickleball. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait. Representative McCabe.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry to the waiting masses. Michelle McCabe, District 4. Through you, Mr. Moderator, I have a question for Mr. Calabrese. If we were to approve the 2 pickleball courts, you mentioned that it's at that moment that there'll be some kind of engineering study done. Am I correct in hearing that?
Thank you, Representative McCabe. Yes, as we start the process, we engage with a design firm, an engineering firm that does work out the plans for us, and they include all of that, and they work with the other bodies, planning and zoning, and obviously conservation and whatnot.
And would this, is it premature for this engineering firm to survey a number of different possible locations for proposed pickleball court construction?
No, it's not too early to have them do that. To have them do any work, though, obviously requires funding. So that's typically, the downside to this. When you're speaking of like large, I'll use a school project, for example, or a building committee, they may come for seed money, $250,000, I'll just throw out there, to do this preliminary work. But when we're doing a project that's, again, I don't want to diminish the project, but a smaller project, smaller scale project, when we're talking funding for designs, it could be $10,000 per location or somewhere in that neighborhood. For me to spend our operating budget on that doesn't make much sense. So what we normally do is we come in and we ask for the funding up front, and that, it's the exact same process that we followed here.
Mm. And is it possible that, let's say, the RTM or a body could fund the consultant fee where, economies of scale and such, instead of having them obviously look at only one site, we say, the town embraces pickleball and wants to see more pickleball courts and have approved funding so that the engineering studies could be done on a number of different sites. And that way we can make, the best decision, especially for a neighborhood that endured, an inordinate amount of flooding. I'm sure you can imagine that they're especially sensitive, to that, as are we.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I completely understand the concerns with the Rooster River. having been in Fairfield over 20 years, I get it. As far as funding design, funding for design, it would have to be over $100,000, and it would have to go through this process that we're in now. So I'm not prepared today to, to give a firm number to say, hey, we can explore, 15 sites or 10 sites or whatever the number is. And to examine 2 sites is not going to be $100,000 for us. So that would not come through this process.
So it's possible then to have those 2 sites surveyed first and then come back to the body to vote.
It is, but it wouldn't be it's not typical. I don't know that it's impossible to do, but normally the non-recurring items come through this time of year. They come through January, February of each year, and they come on an annual basis. So these projects don't typically pop up during the year. It's capital projects, to my understanding. Anything that's over $1 million that could be presented to the boards, I believe, at any time during the year.
Okay.
I apologize if I got any of that wrong, but that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I believe you're right. Mr. Calabrese, thank you. Representative McCabe. Representative McCormick.
Representative McCormick, District 2. I just feel like this body is overstepping in terms of micromanaging the Parks and Rec Department at this point. It seems to me like they've done their due diligence to properly allocate whatever budgeted funds they have to propose the plan and to spend the money once the money has been approved by this body. And I just think it's an overstep by this body to question the diligence and the work that Parks and Rec has put into this at this point. And for all those reasons, I give deference to Mr. Calabrese and his crew, and look forward to hearing from the engineers once the money has been approved to let us know for sure that this can move forward without any serious flooding concerns to the neighbors.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. I think we're here for a reason, and it's if we have questions for whomever the body is, whether it's Parks and Rec, Board of Ed, that's our job, what we got elected for. Representative Carson.
Laura Carson, District 4. I don't think we're micromanaging, by the way. I think that this is our job, and we've heard a lot of complaints about flooding. We just approved affordable housing last year when we had a big discussion about should we do it there because of the flooding issue. So it's not to be taken lightly. This is one area that I've gotten texts and emails from residents of that who are very concerned about it. They have nothing against pickleball. They love pickleball, but they're worried about it in their community. But my question is to Mr. Calabrese. So there's this tremendous demand for pickleball courts. So this is just 2. What are you going to do now? That's not going to satiate them. They want a lot more courts. And I want to know, so this gets done, when are you going to look at doing other pickleball courts in other parts of town? This isn't going to just end here and just satiate them, right?
Thank you, Representative Carson. Yes, the Parks and Recreation Commission is currently looking at how to implement the rest of the master plan. I believe Representative Spolier spoke briefly about that, about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 during committees last week. She was specifically asking where they were in there and where these different projects fell. At the moment, they haven't finished their work or their discussions, but the Parks and Rec Commission is looking at where the next set would go. Like I had mentioned earlier this evening, Dwight Elementary School would be my next priority for pickleball courts, or my next choice, I would say. However, there's a lot of uncertainty with Dwight Elementary School at the moment, as I believe everybody on this board is well aware of, and we're all patiently waiting for the Board of Education or the consultants from the Board of Education to come back with a plan for redistricting or whatever they're going to do. So I think, we won't be coming before any of the bodies before next year asking for additional funding to do pickleball. That's kind of where we are at the moment.
Okay, so next year we'll hear more about more courts and we'll have a better understanding where Dwight is. And I wasn't here last week, I was away, so I didn't hear about the phase one. Thank you for your
Yeah, no worries.
information.
Thank you, Representative Carson. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 1. Anthony, thank you for your presentation. That's exactly what I was feeling. Go for it, kid. Wherever you can put stuff. I mean, you're doing great things with Parks and Recs. I'm happy with you. I trust your judgment in this, and you're right. Anything we do over there is going to have to go through a process. We're going to look at drainage. We're going to look at parking. We're going to look at whatever needs to get done over there. And, to address the neighborhood concerns over there, I mean, remember, I can't remember when, but we just approved several $1 million for Rooster River flooding over there. So there's a lot going on in that neighborhood and a lot of improvements, and I want to see it continue. So, I say we keep moving forward with this plan, give the people what they want. And I see the pickleballers in the audience. I've gotten all the emails. Anthony, let's go for it. Let's give them what they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bates. Representative Zesman.
Thank you, Liz Ezema, District 4. I'd like to just assure our guests tonight that we are all very supportive of popular recreation. What I'd like to do is advise the public, who I think might be a little confused by now, on what the purview of this body is. We are an oversight and legislative body. We also have within our purview the need to determine good fiscal stewardship and to take other considerations into account, and that may be conservation, that may be other things that impact the public or the area where a project like this would go. We represent our constituents. If our constituents have a concern, I'm not going to tell them that they're overstepping. That's what we were elected to do, and that's what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Zesman. I'm going to open it up to the public. We're going to give you 2 minutes. There are like 19 of you, so hopefully not all of you are going to come up and repeat each other, but I'm going to open it up. 2 minutes, state your name, address, and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jim O'Brien. I live at 250 Sherwood Drive in Southport. I've been a resident of Fairfield since 1982, and I love this town, but I have to tell you a little story. We currently have 3 functional pickleball courts in the town of Fairfield. The ones that aren't functional have roots growing through them, nets are down, they don't work. So what some of us are doing is we're going to Trumbull to play. Trumbull has 12 brand new pickleball courts in 2 different parks. And they're beautiful. And it's an embarrassment for us to go up there and play. I'm proud of Fairfield. I love Fairfield, but it's an embarrassment to us. We don't have Trumbull parking stickers. So what we have to do is park on the street in Trumbull and walk into their park, basically sneaking in, so we can play pickleball somewhere. It's really an embarrassment to us, and I just want you to be aware of that. And I think engineering will resolve whatever problems you have with Tungus Hill, and they'll give you a go or no go. But trust engineering. Don't trust hearsay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Betsy Hume. I live here on Pratt Street in Fairfield and have been a resident for about 40 years. I am a retired PE teacher. I'm a certified pickleball instructor and an avid player of the sport. About 3 years ago, we had the 4 courts still functioning at Tungus Hill. We lost 2 because of deterioration in the court. We gained Gould Manor. But I think the key here is that residents who want to book a court have to go online at midnight a week prior to when they want to play to book a court. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in Fairfield of all ages who are desperate to play. And as Mr. O'Brien said, they're leaving town to go other places. I played this summer in a league tournament, and it was an embarrassment to have people come and play in Fairfield. Originally, when the Parks and Rec was studying the town and various places to play, because we have playgrounds in all of the communities, that was their initial idea, was to have pickleball courts in all of the various communities. And the pickleball players spoke out and said it's a social sport. We like to play with groups of people where we mix and mingle after each game, we meet new people, and an individual court wherever in town is not productive to pickleball nor the residents in the community. So I hope that you'll endorse this. We need it desperately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Steve Shepard, 7 Somerville Street, Fairfield. Everybody's been 100% on the mark who's been up here. We have limited number of courts. I have to go to Cherry Lawn in Darien, Milford, Eisenhower Park, all over the place. We used to have a destination, Fairfield was, for pickleball when our courts first opened. We were a leader in the pickleball world in Fairfield County. Now we're a laggard. So we do need, I would say, courts on both sides of town. I played in tournaments around the country. So it'd be really nice to be able to play at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepard.
Hi, my name is Bill Danhauser from 7 Laszlo Terrace. I'm one of the people that gets up at midnight to be able to book the courts for a group of people. And that's the thing I want to stress here, and it's been said, but I want to say it again. Pickleball is not like tennis where 2 people go and play tennis or 4 people go. I kind of work with a group, and Mayor over there works with another group, and we have 30 members. And what we like to do is try to book a couple of courts and play drop-in, and it's social. Change the teams, play, split, keep meeting different people. It's needs courts in the same place. It's not an easy decision, or I understand the challenges that you face and concerned about that. But from a pickleball standpoint, we need 8 courts or 10 courts in one place. And I am very concerned about the idea of just punting 2 courts down the road because it's taken so long to get to this place. Okay, so I really implore you to think hard about this. If there are experts that are going to follow this meeting that are going to validate that the courts will be okay in that from a flooding standpoint, let that due diligence happen, please, because we've come too far to lose these courts at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Van Houser.
Sorry. Oh, there you go. Lisa Pirelli, 161 Coral Drive. I just first want to thank everybody who's serving. I served on the RTM and a local or a sister town, and I understand the due diligence, and I understand the questions. And without the body doing that, you would not be doing your job. Very quick story. I'm a new pickleball player. I started last April, and I also moved to Fairfield about 1.5 years ago, and love, love, love Fairfield. I was traveling down to Annapolis for a family wedding last fall, and one of the first calls I made was to Parks and Rec to find out if they had pickleball courts. And for those of you who don't play pickleball, one of the most beautiful things about the community is it's just that, it's community. And no matter what your age, you are welcomed on the court. And so when I got to Annapolis, while my daughters and my mother were sleeping in, I got up early and I went down to the courts, and they had 16 designated pickleball courts, and they were all full. And I knew nobody, but by the time I was done playing 2 hours of pickleball each morning, I made friends. And the thing that strikes me the most is that it's a sport that includes everybody. I have played with people who could be my parents, along with people who could be my children, and I play with my children as well. It's really a sport that calls the town of Fairfield to action, because we really do have an opportunity to be a leader. I'm not embarrassed by the progress or lack of, because I believe in this body and in the intentions of Parks and Rec to fulfill the dream of really making Fairfield a pickleball leader. Thank you.
Did a good job without the hands. And you were 10 seconds under.
Boy, I didn't think it would be so busy with all this pickleball stuff. So my name's Danielle Orcutt. I live at 168 St. Mortar. I moved here from Massachusetts. I've been here for 6 years living in Fairfield. And I wanted to play pickleball. You know, I went to school down in Florida. I was around it. I found Betsy, searched her out. Took some lessons, and I formed a women's league here. We have 60 women that love pickleball, everyone from just starting out like I was to experienced. And I have to book the courts for our group. You know, a week before I have to go in, which is crazy, and try to find space. And it's usually booked, so we have to rearrange all our lessons. And you're at the courts, like the gentleman said, and there's grass growing up. You're almost tripping over things. And we just don't have enough courts. Our women love it. We talk about careers, helping one another. It's a sense of community. We have people that are 20 years old to 60. And up. You know, it's just great exercise, and we just hope you approve this. We need more space. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public? All good? Okay. All right. Mr. Garskoff, can you remind us what the amendment is, please?
Yeah, sure. So I had proposed an amendment that we remove the addition of 2 pickleball courts from the Tungus Hill Park project. So we'd renovate the existing 4, which are operating as 2. So we'd be expanding the capacity from 2 to 4, but we would not be adding an additional 2.
Thank you. I think we're going to have to do a roll call vote. And Anthony, I don't know how this vote will go, but do you have a number for us?
225 would be the number you want to keep. I don't know what the difference is. 225 would you want to keep for the 4.
Anthony, it's removing 225? Keeping?
If you're removing the 2 additional courts, it's keeping 225.
Okay, does that include the pathways?
It would not include the pathways. This would just be the courts. I'm not going to waste time doing the pathways and everything else if we're not going to be putting everything else in.
Okay, so four court repair is 225.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're not there yet, but Representative Barahona.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jennifer Barahona, District 5. I just want to reassure everyone that's there and who's testified so passionately. I understand. I want to reiterate that we are pro pickleball. Everything you said, I completely support. I don't know, and I'm relatively new, so bear with me. Is it at all feasible to allocate the funding with a different location, Mr. Calabrese, that if there are others that have been identified in the master plan, that we can allocate the funding and have you move forward with the additional identified locations that were part of that plan? I think we all agree. No, there's absolutely no disagreement. I don't think from anyone here that we need more inventory. As I mentioned before, doubling the current inventory to having the 4, happily supporting that to fix those and have the 4 functional there. I think someone mentioned who testified 8 to 10 or 12 courts would be ideal. Obviously, that's not going to happen at Tungus Hill, even with these 2 additional. So we do the 4 there. Are there other locations that we can move quickly and even increase from 2 to 4 somewhere else?
Thank you, Representative Barahona. At the moment, I would not be comfortable swapping out this location for another. Nothing else has been vetted through this process where the public has the opportunity to come out and speak. You know, all the pricing that we've gotten from vendors have been for Tungus Hill, specifically Tungus Hill. So, no, for me, it is this the project, or it's not at the time.
Thank you.
Any other? Representative Kuhn.
Great. Hi, John Kuhn, Rep. District 7. I heard from somebody in the public mentioning that we have a number of courts in disrepair. Okay, if that's the case, why are we not reallocating this money and immediately fixing ones that are in disrepair? It seems to me that that's it. That's the limit. Just those 2. There aren't any more than the 2 that are being, okay. Yeah. We do support rehabbing those.
Representative Astorita.
Hi, everyone. Representative Astorita, District 10. I have to say that my nieces and nephews call me the uncoolest guy they've ever met, which is why until about a year and a half, I had never heard of pickleball. But since I've joined the RTM, it seems like the only thing I ever hear about is pickleball, pickleball, pickleball. So my comment to this body is you've heard the comments from these individuals here. They're obviously very passionate about it. And I also think it's not just from the athletic standpoint, it is from the social standpoint. And that may even be more important to a lot of them. And I think as a town, we have the ability to do 2 things at once. I think we can put 2 new pickleball courts here at Tungus Hill while also investigating opportunities to put additional courts elsewhere, because it seems to me that the need for this is only going to continue to grow. So to me, it just makes common sense that we approve the 4 courts with the 2 new ones and then seek for opportunities to put other courts elsewhere, because it seems to me that that stuff will be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Astorita. Anybody else? Representative McCabe.
Hi, Michelle McCabe, District 4. I'm so sorry. Like my colleague, Representative Barahona, I am new, so I'm sure I'm just torturing everybody with my questions, but I'm hoping through you, Mr. Moderator, to Mr. Calabrese. If we approve this funding and engineering reviews the site for the 2 new courts and determines that in fact it is a problem with flooding, what would happen next?
Thank you, Representative McCabe, for the question. What would happen next is we would not move forward with the 2 additional pickleball courts there. That money would then just not be allocated, or I guess as finance calls it, I guess it just wouldn't be spent. So they wouldn't bond for that money. Then we would explore a different option, and I'd bring that forward through the next non-recurring capital process.
Okay, so if going back to my original question, let's say you were to theoretically have the engineers look at 2 sites, then you wouldn't have to give back the money if you had a plan B. Is that correct? If there was some issue with the flooding? Because we want to see, I think we all agree, we all want more pickleball courts. So, you know, just trying to have a bit of an insurance policy here. If we allocate, yes, 2 more courts, can you inspect 2 sites so that if there's a flooding risk, we can just build them in the other place?
You know what? I like the way you think. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that. I would have to present. I would have to present to you 2 official plans, or
Doesn't work that
one
way.
or the other type plan, to let the public be able to speak to those projects. Because again, I apologize, I don't remember which representative said it. It might even been somebody from the public at this point. Majority of our parks are in neighborhoods. So whenever we do something in a neighborhood park, we want to make sure that we give ample opportunity for the residents to weigh into it. Again, Tungus Hill specifically has gone through, you know, all 3 boards for this funding request. It went through the master plan process for over a year. There has been lots of discussion about Tungus Hill, but to say I had a backup plan, you know, at Highwood Park or somewhere, I'm just making one up. We wouldn't be able to do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Representative Spolier.
Mr. Moderator, Representative Spolier, District 4. Mr. Moderator, through you to Mr. Calabrese. I have 2 questions. The first one is, again, will you be reaching out to the neighborhood at all during this process after we approve this, the direct neighborhood, to see about flooding impacting them directly, or is this it for public comment?
So thank you, Representative Spolier. No, I will not be directly reaching out to any neighborhood members there. I'm not going to go door to door or submit letters to everybody in the neighborhood. That's not required, to my knowledge, by any of the other commissions or boards that we have to go through for these approvals. However, in the process that the town of Fairfield uses, the public has the opportunity to come and speak at every chance, every public meeting that we hold where we discuss this. So again, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and now for this funding, the RTM. And there's, as I heard, 19 members that wanted to speak in favor of pickleball. And I don't believe that there's one there that came to speak against it. I've seen one email from one resident who is concerned with flooding, who has now sent 3 emails. The way I count, it doesn't count as 3 votes there from a person, but that's the same guy who continues to bring up the exact same concerns, which are valid concerns that we are looking at and that we will address further through the engineering. Okay. Sorry. Well, there goes my train of thought there. So I apologize. If we were to add these 2 pickleball courts, the 2 additional courts, the next bite of the apple for the public comes through planning and zoning and that process, where they would be able to speak out against that or their concerns with flooding. I hope that, I know that was long-winded. I apologize for getting distracted there.
That's understandable. That's great. So if, at that point, they could go to planning and zoning as, if there's someone that sees this meeting and didn't realize that this was on the table. That's good to know. Thank you. Also, I was wondering, if we do remove these 2 pickleball courts, you mentioned you would not want the walkway. Isn't that walkway also facilitate the playground that's currently there? So isn't the playground really not accessible without updating the walkway?
Right now, there is a walkway from Melville Avenue. That sidewalk does take you to the playground. There's no walkway from the upper parking lot directly down to pickleball or the playground. So most people park up top and then they walk down the grass hill that everybody sleds down, as has been mentioned numerous times. So no, we would not be putting those sidewalks in at this point. Again, that was part of a larger plan called for in the master plan.
And are those sidewalks pavement, or are they something else? Because I know, like, you know, other forms of water drainage, you know, adding plants or something along that pathway could help with the flooding. Is that anything that you're looking at? And does your current budget include the, though keeping the water at bay, or I'm blanking on the name, you know, but does your current plan include that budget to retain the water?
Very much like the Gould Manor project, we anticipate anytime we are going to be taking green space away and making it an impervious, I don't want to say pavement, but an impervious surface, we always do look, we have the engineers look at how we're going to provide some type of water detention or retention area, depending on what the site calls for. So yes, it is part of our budget. We've just built it in.
Great.
But not along the sidewalks. I apologize for that, but not along the sidewalks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Representative Spolier. Any other comments, or Representative Longo?
Hi, Representative Longo, District 1. Anthony briefly touched on this a few minutes ago, that we've had 20 emails as opposed in favor, overwhelming amount of support for adding these pickleball courts. And we've all received the same emails from the same people. And so I'm just curious, you know, those of the body who are saying that there's a lot of opposition and a lot of concern. I'm just curious as to where those people are tonight, why no one reached out with all of these concerns except for the one email that we've all received. And, you know, the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, all of the support has been positive for us to add these pickleball courts. So I'm just curious, you know, we're seeing overwhelming support to add these, and as a body, we're supposed to represent our constituents. And so I just wanted to clarify that we've had an overwhelming amount of support to add these. Thank you.
All right, we'll keep that one as a comment, not a question. Anybody else? Okay, so we are going to vote now on eliminating the 2 new courts at Tungus Hill Park, pickleball courts, at a cost of $350,000, which will ultimately, when we get to it, reduce the overall appropriation to $6,905,022. So, all those in favor of this amendment? Actually, we're going to take a roll call vote.
Ed Bateson,
No.
Marty Fury, Melissa Longo, Amy Ruggiero,
No.
Bill Gerber, Karen McCormick, Cindy Perham, Jeff Steele, Alex Terrell, Jeff Galdunzi, Tom Lambert,
Yes.
Sharon Pastilli, Laura Carson, Michelle McCabe,
Yes.
Marcy Spolier, Liz Ezema, Jen Barhona, She's here, right?
Jen?
I'm sorry, no.
Josh Garskoff,
Yes.
Joe Siebert, Jay Wolk, Steve Barris, Andrew Graceffa, Lisa Havey, John Kuhn, Mark McDermott, Karen Wackerman.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jill, I skipped you. Jill Vergara. Hank Ferentz.
Write it in the chat, Hank.
He said no.
Thanks. Christine Brown. Margaret Horton.
Yes.
Ken Astorita. Peter Britton. Brooks Baracino. Story Tolman. Does the past wish to vote?
No.
Hannah Gale is here and votes no.
Vote is 14 yes, 22 no. The noes have it, so motion fails for the amendment. Congratulations. So now, after all that pickleball, Ken, let's go back to the original item. Are there any other projects on this list that anybody has questions or concerns about? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take that to a vote. Do you want me to reread it, or is everybody good? Okay, good. Everybody's shaking their head and have had enough, it seems. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be here next month as well. Okay. All right, where are we now? Item number 9, the noise ordinance was referred to LNA. Item number 10, to consider and act upon any other matters presented to said meeting and which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the represented town meeting. Anybody? Representative Steele?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeff Steele, District 2. I would like to make a motion to reconsider the earlier motion to strike the submission of the amendment of the state of the town in the meeting minutes. That was basically part of the state of the town. It was only half completed verbally, and it was submitted. It's part of the record. And if you want sort of a technical view, if you look at Robert's Rules of Order, 11th edition, section 11th edition, page 468, section 11, parts 16 through 18. Minutes are a record of what was done at a meeting, not what was said. she did that. She submitted the amended version, and that should be part of the minutes. That's my motion, that we reconsider, so we only need a second from anybody here, and then we go to a vote to reconsider.
Seconded by Representative Astorita. He had his hand up first. Any comments? Representative Zesma.
Liz Esma, District 4. So Representative Steele, I just want to confirm, was that actually included with the copy of the State of the Town that was passed out? It wasn't in mine, but... After we adjourned? Because if it was after we adjourned, then it was not part of the meeting. I mean, if it had been in the handout, then I would agree with you on that, but it wasn't. Or political to include it. I mean, is there a precedent for this?
Actually, I don't know of any precedent, but it's part of what was said. It's an amendment to what was spoken, and yes, I do think it's political to exclude it. I don't think it's political to include it, because it was what she was going to say. It was the rest of her speech.
If she didn't say it during the meeting, while the meeting was still, before it was adjourned, then it's not part of the meeting.
It was cut short for the sake of time for the body so business could be done. And knowing that it would be part of what her presentation was, she was still submitting it as, okay, instead of speaking, this is it. This is what I'm saying. And to exclude it is frankly ridiculous.
I stand by my position, and I would encourage everyone to consider whether they should be voting to include something that was not brought to the body or was part of our business during the meeting prior to adjourning.
Representative Bastilli.
Sharon Bastilli, District 3. I think saying something ridiculous is questioning our motives. I actually took the recycling from the speech because I wanted to bring it home and put it in my recycling bin, and it was still in my bag. So I have at least 3 copies of the speech, and you'll see that the very end is the end of the speech. The other part was not included. It might have been the newsletter or something, but it was not included and therefore is not part of the meeting.
Thank you, Representative Bastilli. Any other comments on Representative Steele? Representative McCormick?
Representative McCormick, District 2. I echo the sentiments of Representative Steele in saying that if this is excluded, it appears to be a clearly political motive. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. Representative Steele, you alluded that I got a copy of the rest of that. This is the only thing I had ever received. So if it was submitted to the town clerk, I have not gotten that addendum. Who is it from? No. The addendum. You said that I received the moderator and the clerk. I mean, I don't have it in an email. Representative McCormick.
Representative McCormick, District 2. I do have an email dated January 25th, 2023 at 7:02 a.m. from the first select woman of the town of Fairfield with the state of the town attached.
And who is that to, Representative McCormick? Because I don't find it in my emails. And that was 2 days after our meeting. Okay, it's addressed to you, it's not addressed to me.
I don't know who else it may have been addressed to. I'm just indicating that I received an email with the state of the town attached on that date at that time.
With the addendum. Okay. Representative Steele?
My understanding it was submitted to the clerk. If not, I thought a hard copy was dropped off, but submitted to the clerk, which might have been Betsy Brown at that point. I'm sure it was.
Right, I apologize. I don't have it anywhere in my emails, the addendum part of it. And the only copy I have is that hard copy. No, because the minutes were sent out by Ann on what date? Yeah, for the January meeting, for this meeting, February 14th. So I'm going to call the question again is to reconsider the motion to strike the addendum from the meeting minutes of our January 23rd meeting. Right. So we're going to vote to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Representative Guevara? Representative Havey? Abstentions? Who's pounding on the desk? Okay, I think it was two opposed. The rest were yeas. So what do we have, 36 or 37 now? Okay. So we're calling the question. 34-2? 34-2 is the vote. Okay. Representative Longo, you had one more comment? So we had 34-2 is 2/3 more. It's to call the question. Okay. So now we're going to vote on, okay. Right? So it is to strike the elimination of the addendum from the minutes. That's what we're voting on. the original, to add it back in, right? It's okay. To add it back in. To add the addendum that was stricken originally back in. That is it, okay? Okay. So all those in favor of adding the addendum back in? So let's keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13. We can do a roll call, but yeah, it's 14. You can put your hands down. We're doing a roll call now.
Ed Bateson,
Yes.
Marty Fury, Melissa Longo, Amy Ruggiero,
Yes.
Bill Gerber, Karen McCormick, Cindy Perham, Jeff Steele, Alex Durrell, Jeff Goldenzi, Tom Lambert,
No.
Sharon Pistilli, Laura Carson, Michelle McCabe,
No.
Marcy Spolier,
No.
Liz Ezema, Jennifer Barahona,
No.
Josh Garskoff,
No.
Joe Siebert, Jay Wolk, Steve Barris, Hannah Gale,
Yes.
Andrew Graceffa, Lisa Havey, John Kuhn, Mark McDermott, Joe Vergara, Karen Wackerman,
No.
Cameron Chiniski, Hank Ferentz. He had his hand up. Christine Brown, Margaret Horton,
No.
Kenneth Astorita, Peter Britton, Brooks Vercino, Story Tolman.
Okay, 14 yes, 22 no, motion fails. Okay, and a motion to adjourn. Representative Barris, seconded by Representative Tallman. All those in favor? Aye. Good night. See you all next month. Sure.